One of the very interesting things that's happening throughout Europe is the emergence of some really fascinating Eastern European and Central Asia and Russian companies on the internet. I think we heard from one at Getchar, which is Lithuania. So I don't know how many of us have been to Lithuania, but that's a pretty successful company if it's number 2 to Apple's App Store. And I'd just like to ask these 5 guys here to talk a little bit about what country they're from, what company they're representing, and a little thing about what makes their market different. So just 2 minutes each, if you could.
Hi, I'm George. I run a company called XC based out of Greece, and we're actually building a combination of marketplace businesses in the area of Southeastern Europe and North Africa, which is a region covering about 250 million people. We're now operating business in classifieds, online classifieds, and group buying and we have base in 4 markets, soon to be 5.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Benjamin Joff. So I'm based in Asia. I've been based in Asia since the year 2000 across Japan, South Korea, China, and recently Singapore. I run actually 2 businesses. One is a research company researching the proven business models on innovation from Asia to bring those models to foreign markets, so doing a kind of a arbitration on that. So the company is named Plus 8 Star, and I'm also involved in a social gaming company named Simune that launched the first-person shooter on Facebook just a month ago. So the company is based paradoxically in Beijing, where Facebook is theoretically blocked, but we actually launched the game on Facebook, and we have the largest 3D multiplayer game at the moment. To say a few quick words about like the geography I'm representing here is Asia, so it's about like a good number of countries, very different geographies. Japan, Korea, China obviously are very different. Japan are extremely strong on mobile with 3 social networks listed on the stock market already. One of them acquired a gaming company in US called NGMoko. The other ones are actually looking for acquisitions. China is of course very big. There's about 10 companies, online gaming companies from China listed, whether on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. Recently, China listed a kind of YouTube company. And Korea is a pioneer in online games and virtual goods business model. Or probably those are like the 3 most important geographies in Asia. Indonesia is rising, but not yet there in terms of let's say internet revenues on whether on online games, online advertising, or even entrepreneurial scene. So, a few words.
Hello, my name is Michael Braham. I'm one of the founders of Rebate Networks. I founded the company together with Stefan Glenzer. And apart from that, I'm a business angel from Germany. With Rebate Networks, we are building daily deal sites, so group buying sites around the world. We are currently in 30 markets, basically focusing on Latin America, East Europe, and Asia. And in about 60% of the markets, we are market leader, and in the others, we are normally strong number 2 or 3.
My name is Cem Sertoğlu. I'm from Turkey, and I run an internet investment firm called Young Turk Ventures. We've been active in Turkish internet, investing in sort of a stage-agnostic approach in the Turkish market. And we've been fortunate to get involved in a few of the landmark transactions in Turkey, such as Gitti Gidiyor, which is the market leader, one of the market leaders in e-commerce in Turkey, which has since been also a partner of eBay. And Yemek Sepeti, which is an online meals delivery business. That's also one of the first-generation success stories in the Turkish market. Our latest investment has been also in the group buying area called Grupania, which is one of the leaders in the Turkish market, which has actually grown to be one of the significant markets around the world, posting interesting numbers. And we see so much opportunity there that we've actually gotten very hands-on involved and now are pushing into adjacent areas of what we consider the next generation of e-commerce in the Turkish market, and exploring international opportunities also in emerging markets.
Hi, my name is Damien Doberstein. We are doing the private sales model in Russia with KupiVip. We founded it in 2008, Oscar Hartmann and myself. And yeah, since that we had rapidly growth. Currently we are the biggest e-fashion company in Russia. We are organizing about 20 sale events every day, and yeah, have about 450 employees now in Moscow, and yeah, want to continue our growth in next years.
Well, maybe we'll start with you. What's happening? What do you have to do differently in Russia? And talk to me a little bit about what your investors are like, what you look for from an investment standpoint. Because I think, you know, in a lot of these countries, there's just fewer web properties, right? And so there's a lot less knowledge in the market. So you guys either have to be very, very smart, or you need to take some concepts and arbitrage them into what will work in the local market. But just spend a little time on what's worked and what's not worked for you in Russia.
I think there are basically two things. The first thing is that we have built the necessary infrastructure for e-commerce in Russia. The second is that we just have been lucky because it was the right timing. Yeah, the first thing, yeah, in Russia it's very hard to do outsourcing in general. So we are forced to build our own call center. We now have call center with 80 people. Then we have our own delivery service for Moscow with about 50 cars bringing the parcels every day to the customer and collecting money. And we're also doing our own warehouse operations. And this is a huge competitive advantage now in Russia. The second thing is that we started in we have been founded in summer 2008, but we started in the most, in the worst moment in November 2008, 1 month after Lehman Brothers. So the Russian suppliers were very open to cooperate with us because they were really hit, and we could establish very good relationships to the brands. And also it was very good that the media industry was hit hard in Russia, so we had a good position for negotiations at the beginning. And also at the consumer side, there were a lot of demand for discounted brands in this time because consumers were also hit, but they don't like to downgrade in the crisis, so there was huge added value for our model.
That is... It is really interesting to learn about how low-cost providers were really able to slingshot out of this terrible environment. I mean, we've seen a lot of the vente privée copycats, I think a lot of the Groupon models, and it feels like what a lot of you guys have in common is you're getting super offers to people with very, very low-cost distribution, whether that was being one of the first to take advantage of Facebook or some media partnerships or anything like that. So it sounds like this is a group of companies that really seized the opportunity at that time in the market. Cem, can you talk a little bit about what's worked in Turkey? And also, I think everybody's interested in Facebook. Is it a fad, or is it really, really important in some of these markets where there's less local content?
Facebook is, I think, here to stay in Turkey because I don't see it as a media platform. I don't see it as so much content, but it really, at least in Turkey, in my opinion, has captured the identity layer of the internet. And it's, I think, becoming more and more with Facebook Connect, becoming more and more utilized as this sort of layer that connects people and sort of maps the individual to an IP address or an email address, which as we start connecting the real world with the connected environment, with the internet, such as the group buying business does, Facebook becomes, I think, more and more important and again, utilized much more as a platform rather than a destination or a property. The Turkish market has been fascinated with Facebook. I actually have a personal history related to that because I tried to front run Facebook in the Turkish market with a like a Steve Faucet type copycat, which we got clobbered in back in 2007. But Turkey has an estimated 25 to 30 million internet users, and almost every single one of those are Facebook users. I think it also has contributed to the success of what we consider the next generation of e-commerce businesses, such as group buying or private shopping clubs, that utilize social media effectively to be able to, at a very low cost, without the arbitration of Google or local internet media, online media companies, to be able to reach to large groups and catch virality. Somebody told me that the leading group buying company in Turkey, which is doing sort of healthy revenues right now, was or is the cheapest group buying, cheapest private shopping company built anywhere in the world. And we actually suspect that we might be one of the cheapest group buying businesses. Group buying might be one of the cheapest group buying businesses to have developed to this size. So social media has been extremely, extremely valuable in enabling that.
Okay, Michael, so you either have a very, very big vision or you just want to be every place at once. What is the reason to be in Latin America, Eastern Europe, and Asia for your business? What works and what doesn't work when you're trying to cross a lot of territories like that? Are you really taking a portfolio approach, or do you have something that is pretty special and you think you've cracked the code in multiple markets? And I think back to Jumbo and Zed and some of the companies that did a lot of the wireless and mobile applications. They did a very good job, pushing out from the core of Germany, and it sounds like your strategy is similar. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we got involved at the end of last year in Germany with a company called Daily Deal, and really pushed that, fought a huge battle, first with City Deal and now with Groupon. Where now their company is doing very well, and we liked the model so much that we said we would love to take this to as many countries as possible. And then Stefan and I discussed, okay, which kind of areas could we go to? And Stefan is a big fan of East Europe for his history with the auctioning sites, and I've basically after high school spent significant time in Asia. So I said, let's focus on these two. And then we really saw this as a land grab game, worked very hard and tried to kind of establish a footprint very fast, and focused a lot on partnering with good entrepreneurs locally. And we believe that so far we have done a pretty good job. But of course there are also a lot of challenges on a daily basis, and actually...
How do you control it? I mean, I can't imagine how that you can control. My guess is you have somewhat of a franchise type model where you're providing capital, they're getting some revenue share. And
no, well, basically we give a significant equity stake to the local entrepreneurs, which makes them control itself. The good thing about this business model is that it's very transparent to the outside. Because you see on a daily basis what's kind of happening. You can do some mystery shopping from time to time, see if the deal is really delivered, and that way you have good, and then you see of course the cost side, because we try to stage our investments like on a monthly basis, which means we don't transfer like a big check to say Vietnam and then the founder disappears and has a nice holiday home. So, and that's like, this is like probably our biggest challenge then. So a lot of kind of the controlling is done through the incentivation. Secondly, we also have regional heads who look there from time to time, so to make also sure that actually there's a business existing. But one of the biggest challenges actually is finding good staff in the areas, because often, especially in the countries we are operating in East Europe and Asia, work ethics are also often very different from like a Central European approach. We had in one country at the beginning of the year two guys who saw, okay, now we're like managing directors of the company, and our job is to make big deals and wine and dine very expensively, like for lunch and dinner, and after a month they have produced like 20,000 of kind of...
And you said they were French?
Sorry? No, it was local.
I know, I'm just kidding.
So,
Seeing if
and
anyone's
then,
paying
of course,
attention
I
out
mean,
there.
we needed to find a solution for that, and now other people are running it. But this is like the kind of challenges you deal with this. I think one of the reasons why we could do it is because the model is so transparent. I believe if you have a different model, which takes longer time until you see results, it would be much harder to kind of scale and kind of go to that many different countries.
And what's the realistic ambition if you're a leader in your market? Is it to sell to a US consolidator, a German publisher, to try and go IPO in the local market? What's kind of the ambition? Because I know a lot of you guys are taking advantage of some very good concepts that are developed in Germany or the US or France for Vent Privé and moving very quickly and establishing leading positions. And how and when do you know when it's time to think about the exit or to be an aggressor on your own?
To me? I mean, you always only know later if it was a good time or a bad time to exit. But I think our main focus right now is on building a great company. And somebody on the panels before has said, if you have a great company, then there will be buyers coming automatically. And I think really truly believe that you should focus on the company and not kind of build to flip, because if you do this, you run the danger that it's kind of failing. And I always try to build sustainable companies, and then we'll see, and then there are probably multiple options.
Mark and Oliver might disagree, but the Samars, they've managed to build and exit very, very quickly. Maybe Ben, we can speak a little bit about Asia, and is Asia different than Europe? And where is it most different? Is it in mobile? Is it in instant messaging? Is it in virtual goods? Where are they more of the future? And then really, how are they different?
So is it different? Well, one way to kind of answer this question is to say it's pretty much one and the same, but at a different time. So what we've seen in, like you were mentioning, the gaming market and virtual goods, this is like a model that has been basically popular and mature in South Korea for about 10 years and spread to China. And now you have market-listed companies leveraging that model and not only being successful in China, but actually starting to acquire companies outside China. So Shanda, one of the leading online game companies, acquired a company called Mochi Media in the US for $80 million, so it's not small change, but for them it's just a quarter, like it's the profit of 1 quarter. So they could acquire a company like that every 3 months. Now in terms of what I find the most interesting is what is possible to learn, especially from China, because we're talking about emerging markets. And so there's a number of categories of internet ventures that are already very mature. So of course search is doing very well. Baidu is a very big company on NASDAQ. Online games, of course, very popular. Maybe a quick survey. Anybody heard of a company called Tencent here? So if you did, okay. So I guess the others haven't. So Tencent is kind of an interesting company because as of today, it's the 3rd largest internet company in the world after Google and Amazon. Their market cap is about $45 billion, and 90% of their revenue is from virtual goods. This year, they're on track to make about $2.5 billion just with virtual goods, just in China. So what's interesting when you look at this company that's doing that much revenue in a market where the average income is about $400 a month, then they must be onto something in terms of monetizing low-income demographics. So it's very inspiring for large countries like Russia, Indonesia, and basically each of those countries could have somehow their local Tencent. And on the consulting work we're doing, we actually work with a Vietnamese company positioning itself as the Tencent of Vietnam. We work also with a Russian company, pretty famous, called Mail.ru, that's also positioning itself toward like gaming and virtual goods increasingly. Actually, they share this kind of interesting relationships between Tencent, DST, which is the like holding company of Mail.ru, on Astrom, the online gaming company in Russia, and another company in South Africa called Naspers, MIH, which is a very large media group that owns a third of Tencent. So this is quite interesting how you see those relationships between emerging markets and how much inspiration can be drawn from China, especially.
Yeah, the whole DST, Mail.ru, Tencent, Naspers, Putin. It's amazing, and it really is fascinating how quickly DST was able to expand and invest in Zynga, Groupon, and Facebook from London. You know, it's remarkable. A lot of smart guys in our business.
Apparently Dubai now.
What was that?
I think they relocated to Dubai. So, I mean, you can say they're Russians or in London or something, but eventually all those are, I don't know if you watched the movie Network from 1976, where they actually scream that it's not about nationality, it's about petrodollars or whatever, gold dollars, or today's digital dollars. And it's like transnational.
It's just amazing what they were able to do. And you know, my instincts want to tell me that this whole social thing is a little bit faddish. You know, that people start it, you get sucked in for a year or two, and then you go get a girlfriend or something and find something else to do with your time. But maybe I'm just a little pessimistic, and this really is going to change everybody's lives. But it's been amazing so far. George, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the challenges of launching from a small market like Greece, and what are the things that you've done that have created the success you've had so far, and maybe give us a little sense of the scale of the business you're operating, if you could.
So a couple of things. So first of all, like I think the WebRes guy said that, you know, starting a business from a small market means that actually you can only grow larger. So basically that actually forces you to have a larger ambition and actually a smaller one. That's the first point. Second, actually to the point you mentioned before around Facebook and whether it's a fad or not, I think actually, like Jem said, actually we're in the third phase of the web in terms of how we discover, right? First phase was via portals like Yahoo, AOL, etc. Second phase was via Google. Third phase was actually via Facebook and the social graph on and off Facebook. What that actually makes the entrance into new markets, particularly emerging markets, much faster, because it allows information, and particularly information around cues that actually trigger social buying behaviors. It allows the proliferation of that information to happen way faster than anywhere else in the world. The other observation is actually that we've talked a lot here about group buying and the private sales model, and I think the whole world is focusing on that because it's actually it can become very successful and very cash generative very, very quickly. The truth of the matter is that in many of these markets, actually, we are actually now focusing on building businesses with strong network effect. It takes time to develop. Right, classifieds, marketplace, it takes time to develop, it's longer term, and actually when you build the leadership position, actually you build a business that actually has a much more long-term, I would say, both potential and actually potential profitability. So I would say for us is really understanding which are the businesses that were built, you know, a long time ago and actually are very successful in Europe and the US, and replicating basically in each category the model with the equivalent type of attention and actually longevity in terms of actually the investment profile. So group buying, we're very like to be in, it's very cash generative, it's very successful, you know, it's a good business to be in, but also we're taking a different approach in approaching other businesses like classifieds, where actually we're investing for the long term, trying to really focus initially in building the user experience and actually the leadership position, and then monetizing.
And how do you acquire your listings in classifieds? Because it is a relatively mature segment of the web?
Again, it depends on the country. In some, I mean, in Greece, our heritage was classified, so we're able to actually transform an offline business to online and actually acquire leadership. So we have, the existing relationships, and we're actually building further the network effects with the real estate agents, the dealers, et cetera, to acquire the classifieds. And actually, we're really focusing on actually getting listings and users rather than money in classifieds right now, because we want to build actually the top position, the leadership, and success in classifieds depends on how far away you're from the second player, and actually we want to achieve that. And in some other markets, actually, it's game over. So like in Turkey, say, Bintan is actually by far the leader, so we decide not to enter Turkey. In some other markets where actually penetration of the internet is actually far lower, we think there's actually tremendous opportunity to enter organically. So again, the focus there initially on classifieds actually focus, build the best user experience, get comprehensiveness and transparency in the listings, build the #1 position, network effects, and then monetize. Which is very different than group buying, which basically make cash from day one, right?
It is a question we think about all the time, where you see these companies that have tremendous velocity, but you don't know if they have momentum. And I think that the difference is a company with momentum is building something that's got much more staying power to it. And it does feel like there's tremendous scale where people are coming and hitting these markets very, very quickly. But it never ceases to amaze me how fragile a lot of these web properties are. And someone asked me the other day, he says, give me an example of a company that's made the shift from Web 1.0 to 2.0 to 2.0 to 3.0. I mean, everybody knows that Apple's made a remarkable recovery, but most organizations, once they kind of get into a little bit of a negative spiral, for whatever reason, have a really, really difficult time.
But that, I mean, again,
around.
on your point, I mean, it really depends in understanding what business you're in, right? So a lot of people who get in the group buying business, they think that they're in the coupon business. No. Right. You're in the business of actually providing some value to the consumers, helping them discover something new every day, and basically helping merchants acquire customers, right? And I think only if you look at the business in the way that actually the business deserves to be seen, and actually provide real value to the consumers and the customers, you're actually building a medium or long-term business. Otherwise, you're there just for the short term.
Yeah, there's a lot of skimming, is what we call it, where people come and they see a market, or we see it sometimes in online retailers where they have a good core market, and then they skim, and they're able to get a little bit of volume in other markets and make a little bit of money, but they can't scale it. They're not permanent. They don't have a real reason to exist beyond kind of the stuff that comes in the door. Does anybody have anything really interesting to say about mobile and the mobile role in all of this? I think it feels like there's a lot of applications that don't come out of Germany or the UK or Scandinavia, and mobile seems like an area where we'll see some companies come from outside of the big US countries, and I'm thinking about how the Samoars did Jamba or Skype, or what are we seeing there, Ben?
I have quite a few stories on mobile, but I just pick one that's quite relevant for emerging markets. It's a company that basically is a mobile social network. Initially started by Australian guys who moved to Silicon Valley, realized they had a lot of users in Asia, and last year relocated to Singapore to address the Asian markets. So the company name is MIG33, MIG33, and they have about 40 million users only on mobile. And they actually they address geographies like India, South Africa, Indonesia. And on those geographies, it's almost impossible to make money with online advertising. Is already difficult, but mobile advertising is kind of a no-no. So they monetize via virtual goods, digital gifts, avatars, and they're actually on track to profitability soon. They just raised something like $8 or $9 million, part of it by pretty famous investors like Redpoint, and I don't remember the other one. And one of the investors actually the Japanese social network market listed that's named Gree, that's also using virtual goods. So what's interesting is that you see that even in markets where the majority of users don't have iPhones, don't have Android phones, and are not very wealthy, and there's no money on advertising, it's still possible to grow a service and actually monetize it quite directly from users, which is maybe a little bit counterintuitive.
We're seeing some interesting things in mobile in India as well, because the cost of a mobile phone is $40 and the ability to, or $25 to do SMS billing and online banking and things like that. I mean, we've found that the prepaid mobile as a platform really is generation skipping for a lot of these places that don't have landlines or dial-up phones or anything like that. And I have a sense there are going to be some interesting companies coming out of there. Maybe, Damon, you can talk a little bit about the Russian internet. How fast is it growing? How big are these companies? How many really interesting Russian internet companies are we going to see? Because it does seem like it's probably going to be the third or fourth largest internet market in Europe in terms of dollars eventually. And how fast is things changing there?
Yes, Russia is quite different from Europe and also from Asia. I think it's somewhere in the middle. We have seen in the presentation from Bernard from Ozone, from the Russian Amazon, very interesting figures today. It's very fast growing now. Russia has about 140 million people. The penetration rate is now about 40%, so there's still a huge room for growth. And Russian-speaking people around the world are about 250 or 300 million. So there are only there are yet about 100 million people, Russian-speaking people online already. And yeah, the Russian market is a little bit different because in Russia there's a culture of these IT guys from 20 years ago. At the end of the Soviet Union, there were a lot of technicians. So from this side, a lot of good software companies coming from Russia, and also Russia has its own search engine. It's called Yandex, like Baidu in China, and also has its own social networks. Facebook is only number 4, I think, and its own email provider. So it's a very local market with local specifics, and and the consumer internet is just starting off with QPVeep and some other interesting projects, like the Groupon model is also it's also very good in Russia. So the consumer internet is just starting, and so.
And with 450 people, you know, you've got a scale business. What is your biggest new growth initiative from the private sale business? Do you want to go into the group buying? Do you want to go into traditional storefront e-commerce, or do you want to look abroad for international expansion? What's your big vision?
Yeah, we invested a lot of money in infrastructure actually, and so it's for sure we can leverage on this and grow beyond the pure private sales model, I think, but inside e-commerce in Russia, and also regional expansion. We are already delivering to Belarus and soon to Kazakhstan, maybe Ukraine, we will see. So there's a lot of growth for us possible.
Great. I'm going to have one last question because I know I'm the only thing keeping you guys from your cocktails. So Cem, maybe you can talk quickly about the Turkish market, and who do you think the big successful companies, what do you think they're going to do in Turkey? Are they going to go public? Are they going to sell to Germany? Are they going to sell to the US? Are they going to sell to DST? What do you think is going to be the exit for the companies to be created in Turkey? How big are they going to get over the next 3 years, and what's going to happen to them? Because that's a great market, lots of young people, rapid growing economy.
I think so far Turkey has been the story that kind of never came. When you look at Russia, you have multiple sort of billion-dollar companies that have grown out of Russia. When you look at Turkey, if you add the top 10 Turkish companies together, you get probably $1 billion of sort of free market valuations. I think that's about to change because Turkey has always been fairly successful on the engagement side. So users engaged on mobile, engaged on the internet, but monetization being fairly repressed for a variety of reasons. What is breaking through on that side has been social media. I think Facebook has democratized to the Turkish internet and has been able to convert some of that attention into transactional dollars beyond advertising, and companies like Upania are leading that. So 2011 is going to be interesting in that some of these sort of next generation e-commerce companies are now coming of age and hitting critical mass. So we'll be getting in the radar of global strategic buyers. I think, in fact, suspect very strongly that there will be a major Turkish exit in 2011, and it will sort of flash Turkey, especially in the radars of global strategic buyers and U.S. VCs and private equity funds who have so far seemed to ignore Turkey. But in terms of the exit potentials, I think there's sort of local media is always interested, although they haven't made any major moves as of yet. Germany has been, I think, very, very attuned to the Turkish opportunity, and some of the most active financial investors in Turkey are of German origin. The Zamvers have a couple of positions in the market, and I think there are now a couple of players that are reaching critical mass in size for a potential IPO, although that will have been unprecedented, and I think there's drawbacks to that.
Super. Well, I think we know that Russia's building some very, very significant companies. Turkey's about to show us a few things in the next few years. The international expansion is doable in certain control environments, although I'm sure there's lots of stories you could share with us over a beer. Asia is different. We always expected it, but now we know. And that from Greece you can do amazing things. Let's hope they get through this crisis. Are you paying taxes? Trying to. Very good. Thank you guys very much. Bye-bye.